Hello, my name is Ben Casado with Summit Lending, and I'm here with Lisa Alley, our broker owner, and we are going to go over the state of the market today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Alley, and yes, I know there's a lot of confusion in the market right now. So we just want to try to clear some information up for people and provide some facts, and hopefully we'll help you out.
All right, so what is the state of the market? What are the pros and cons that you're seeing right now, just from what you've heard and what you've seen?
So basically, right now, I know a lot of people are worried about, is the housing price going to drop tremendously? What's going to happen with interest rates? So we're just trying to clear up some of those myths for people. So what I have been telling people is this is not like 2008. A lot of people are asking me that. And the big reason being is back then, which I was doing loans back then, a lot of people were in adjustable rate mortgages. There was the subprime loan. They were fixed for 2 years, and after that they would adjust, and the adjustments were terrible. So we're talking about people whose payments were going up like literally like $1,000 a month on the first adjustment. And I think there was something close to 40% of the market, of people in the market, had those types of loans. So with that all happening and all those payments going up, a bunch of people just fell apart on those mortgages. Jobs were lost. People were then becoming upside down on their home. And it was just a really tough time. It was a tough time for all of us. The big difference right now is that all the loans that we've been doing for the last few years since then, there was a lot of government regulation after that happened. And a lot of the loans that we've been doing since that time have been fixed rate loans. The people are very well qualified as far as income, and there's still a ton of equity in people's houses right now.
Yeah, so going back to that 40% number, I did see a graphic, and it was 40% of people were in arms in 2008. And then now in 2022, that number is 2%. So obviously big difference there.
Yes, absolutely.
We won't see a collapse on payments, that type of thing, like last time. But you talk about some of the differences between 2008 and the market now. Do you see any similarities between the two?
The big similarity, I guess, I'd see right now is fear in the market. I think a lot of people are scared, kind of like they were. People are, scared to get into contracts on new houses. They kind of want to wait. People are a little scared to sell their homes. They don't want to, sell their homes. Most of these people are cemented in low fixed rates. So they're very nervous about going from, they're locked into 3%. They don't want to all of a sudden go, to 6% on a new house, even though they might potentially need a new home. So I would say the biggest similarity that I see is fear in this market.
Okay, interesting. So something else I wanted to talk about is back in 2008, from what I've heard, I wasn't, it's 8 years old back then, but from what I've heard is there was a lot of new construction, and that kind of fueled the mortgage lenders to get people into homes. All these subprime loans people couldn't afford. It was because there was so much new construction, and then obviously now we've heard of supply just dwindling. I mean, I think there's less than 750,000 homes just in California,
Yes.
maybe even nationwide. Just supply has been obliterated in this market. So, how do you think that factors in?
So that's the big thing right now. The huge difference is back then there was tons of inventory. Right now there is not a lot of inventory. It's getting better, but it's still nowhere close to what we need to have a healthy market, which is one of the big reasons that I believe, and a lot of analysts that I've been reading and listening to podcasts that have been talking about, don't think the market, specifically in California, is going to fall too much.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other markets out there, like Idaho, Boise, Idaho, like went crazy. There's certain pockets in Florida that went nuts. Some other locations that are probably going to have some issues. But I think in California, we might see, in my opinion, we're going to see maybe a small dip, but nothing crazy. And it's really not much of a dip because we got so much, equity, so much appreciation in the last 2 years. It was just unbelievable. So we're kind of going to go back to the mean, like back to where we should be. And that's what we all really want, is a healthy market.
Yeah.
We don't need these crazy fluctuations of home prices, of interest rates. We just need a healthy market again.
So, I mean, whatever is coming, if it's a market crash or correction, what do you think we will see in the next 1 to 2 years? What was your short-term outlook?
So here's my short-term outlook. So currently, interest rates are up. They're very erratic right now. They've been erratic all year. And the biggest problem is inflation. Inflation is too many dollars going after too few goods. So what happens with inflation, if you have an interest rate at 3% that you're paying, someone obviously owns that mortgage. They're getting paid at 3%, but inflation is up at 6, 7, 8%. It's eroding. There's not a lot of value. So interest rates have to naturally go up for inflation. So there is a lot of evidence that shows that inflation should be peaking here in the next month, 2 months, 3 months period of time. What is pointing to that evidence is if you look back 12 months, so October of 2021 is when the inflation numbers started really popping up. So when you're going to go, whenever you see those inflation reports come out, they're looking 12 months back. So what happens most likely is when the October of 2022 numbers come out in November of this year, they're not going to show as high of an increase anymore because we were already starting from a higher point over here. So even though it's not necessarily, we still do have inflation, it's not like it's getting better per se. It's going to show better on paper, and it's going to start bringing things down. So once inflation starts to ebb, and in theory it's going to be maybe November, December, maybe January, February, those numbers are going to hopefully start to show a little bit of an improvement. What's most likely going to happen is the Fed's not going to put a pause on raising rates. They're still going to raise rates, but the thing about mortgage rates is they are not affected by what the Fed's doing. They're affected by the Treasury, the 10-year Treasury most specifically, and mortgage-backed securities. So when inflation starts to ebb and go down a little bit, what's going to happen is that 10-year Treasury is going to start dropping. And whereas rates are 6.5% today, they're potentially going to drop a point and a half to get in line with that inflation numbers as they come down. So I think that interest rates are going to steady out and start coming down probably towards the end of this year to early next year.
Yeah. So do you anticipate rates going below 5 in 2023?
I think basically looking at some numbers, and the main thing that I do is I love to listen to podcasts. I love to listen to information about this industry, and listening to a lot of different analysts and a lot of just people that are way smarter than myself talk about it. I'm thinking that we're going to see rates in the mid 4s to low 5s probably by next summer for sure.
Okay. Wow. So what would be your best advice for people that are looking in this market right now? Would you tell them to wait? Would you tell them to kind of go after it? Who do you think would benefit most from purchasing in this market?
So I always tell everybody, no matter the market, if it's the house you're going to live in and you find the house you love, buy it. The rates do not matter, I don't think, at all. So it's kind of funny because literally just 6 months ago, people were paying $100,000 over asking for a house without blinking an eye. Now you're getting a house that maybe even getting, a little bit of concessions or discount on the house, and the rate's higher, but they're like, there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of fear in the market now. I think if you find that house, 100% is the house you want, buy it. If you can afford it, buy it. And when I say if you can afford it, I really think you're only going to have to be looking at these higher rates for probably, maybe a year or so before you can refinance it. And you can refinance multiple times. So as this market as unfortunately we start to go into recession, rates are going to start getting better and better. So, where you might be paying 6.5 now, you can refinance it next year at maybe 5%. And, potentially you can refinance it again, maybe in the high 3s 2 years down the road, depending on how this recession is going to look. And that's just going to play out in the cards. We'll see how that happens.
Yeah. And what would you say to buyers who are looking at today's rates? They might have found their dream home, but they just based on the rates don't think that they can qualify for the payment or make the payment, even if they do qualify but can't make that payment. Do you have anything for those buyers to help them out? Because obviously once they refinance later down the line, their payment will be lower, but obviously right now not everyone can afford a $5,000-$6,000 payment a month.
Of course. So right now there's a lot of different programs out there that I've been talking to my personal clients about. So depending, there's some interest only products out there. Another one we really like is the 2-to-1 buy down. So what happens in that one is the seller is able to give you a concession. So let's just say that they're going to take 2 years of interest. So if your payment is if your rate is 6.5 now, you're going to go down to 4.5% for the full first year and 5.5% for the full second year. What the seller concession is going to be, it's going to pay the difference of the interest between that. So we have a calculator to figure that out. So let's just say, for example, on an $800,000 loan, or you're maybe coming up with about $15,000 of concessions.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, 6.5%, you're paying 4.5% the first year, which is way better. That's a huge savings. 5.5% the second year. And the best part about that is, let's just say if what I'm talking about is correct, fingers crossed, and rates do drop down, and you want to refinance in a year and keep that let's say they get down to 4.5%, you want to keep that 4.5% rate. The money that you have saved in that, they call it like an escrow account that they used for that buy down, whatever you don't use is actually going to come back to you as the buyer. So essentially, if you refinance, let's just call it in 6 to 8 months, you can almost use that money to pay for your costs on the refinance. So it's like so basically the seller on the house today is paying your cost to refinance and get you into a low rate in the near future.
Mm-hmm. And would you recommend this program to agents? Let's say agents that have had a listing that's been on the market for 90 days. They've already done 2-3 price reductions. Do you think that this is potent enough to bring in new buyers that wouldn't have looked at it beforehand?
Well, I think it's great for agents because number one is keeping, agents, the big thing is they want to keep the home prices. Usually agents work in the same neighborhood. So they don't want to, deteriorate the home prices on that neighborhood by dropping listing prices. So if you were to, offer the 2-1 buy down, essentially you're giving that buyer on that property a payment that's probably $100,000 less. And all you're doing is just giving a seller concession. So it makes a lot of sense to keep the values up in the property and in the neighborhood you're targeting. So it's going to keep your values up in the neighborhood, number one. And number two, it's nice for you because, your sellers are going to be happy. You're not lowering the price $100,000. Instead, you're maybe giving, $15,000 of concessions, but you're still getting the price you wanted for the property.
Yeah. I think that, is definitely something for agents to look at, especially if they're struggling to get attention to their listing, maybe add that to the marketing material. I think that could definitely give a boost and help ease buyers that are afraid in this market right now, just give them something to look toward. And I think the best part about that program is, as you said before, you see rates coming down in 2023 and then, in 2024 as well. So people that get in those programs, they're never going to have to touch the high rates that we see today. They're going to just, they're going to have the buy down first year, buy down second year, and they might even have to wait to the second year to refinance to a lower rate. They could get in it realistically in 6-9 months, a year. So I think that's definitely something for people to consider, especially if they're looking to buy in this market.
And then just to circle back to the 2008 thing, one thing I've always seen, I've been doing this for almost 25 years now, I've never seen anyone lose value. So even those people that, they bought in 2008 at the top of the market, or 2006 I think was the top of the market, if those same people that are still in their homes now, they have way more equity. So don't be scared because equity, it will always come up. Here in California, we do have a higher appreciation rate than most of the country. And property is it's a beautiful thing. It's an asset that keeps up with inflation and is a write-off. There's just a lot of great things about owning property. So I have a question for you, Ben. So what has it been like for you? So you are just kind of new in the industry here, about a year in now, is that right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of coming into an interesting time. How do you feel about all this?
It's definitely not been what I expected. Coming into the industry in July 2021, I thought it was going to be smooth sailing for at least another couple of years, and I was horribly mistaken. Obviously, as soon as the year started, things started to deteriorate. I got my license back in April, kind of as the market we were really starting to settle into higher rates and stuff. So it's definitely been a tough adjustment being in these new rates, but I think that there's a lot of opportunity now just to build relationships with realtors and other people within the community, and then carry those relationships through to the next market if we see lower rates or some kind of move in the next couple of years. But I think the biggest thing is that I can take a break or not a break, but I can slow down and really understand what's going on as a loan officer and not just being bombarded with volume of standard W-2 refinances and really take my time and understand all the different scenarios, because we've seen more non-QM loans this year, just more interesting loan programs I don't think I would have seen in the past 2 years. So I think it's definitely helped to help my understanding of the mortgage industry, and just to see these different programs, and really to help me become more of a problem solver, to understand that there are unique scenarios that will come up all the time, and just have the toolkit to be able to tackle all those issues that might come up, and just build experience so that when it does come up again in the future, it's, oh, I've already seen that, and I know exactly what to do. So I think just the more scenarios that I can see definitely helps out building my knowledge, and will help clients in the future, just being able to see all spectrums of the market.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's last time this happened back in '08, I think the cleansing of our industry, which is terrible. You don't want to see a bunch of people lose jobs. But one thing about our industry is when it's good, you get a lot of people that flock to our industry.
Yeah.
And when it's bad, they will leave. So right now we're in that stage where you're going to get a lot of those people leaving, and those who persevere and really take the time to understand the products and build those relationships are the ones that are really going to make it through and make this a career, not just a job.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And funny statistic on that, I actually believe in 2008, after the crash, I think there was 40,000 loan officers in California, and that number, after they implemented the Dodd-Frank and all the new regulations in the mortgage industry, went from 40,000 to 6,000.
Wow. That's crazy. I was one of those 6,000, and I'm really glad that I was. It really is a great career. It's so wonderful to help people. It's awesome when you can call people and tell them you're closed on your house and they're excited. So there's a lot of great rewarding things about this career.
Yeah, definitely a lot of excitement.
Yes, just stick with it. Stick with it, kid. You got it.
Anything else you want to say? Or?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will hopefully be back with more discussion about the market, rates, anything mortgage related. So thank you for listening.
Take care.